Get your popcorn ready. If you don't want to watch this tilt, fast forward about 10 minutes. Okay? About 10 minutes. Because, oh boy, do we have a lot to recap here. Slate. Okay, so, I mean, where do you want me to start? I have about a page full of notes. I had to take notes. And if you're new, it's a rare occurrence. We have to break out the notebook every once in a while when slates like this happen. Okay? Again, jot down some notes. Watch the game. Taking a few notes. All right. I think this is a good place to start. When we talk about coaches giving out information today, literally in like code, like I'm trying to decipher code to try to figure out how long these players are going to play for. Start with Dwayne Casey, Mr. Casey. All right. Tweet from, or article from last night. We're going to run this game like a practice. We want to run the bench a lot. Then he comes out and says, we're going to try to give everybody run 24, 25 minutes, but we're going to play the bench as much as we can. Excuse me? Excuse me. How about Willie Green? I don't know if the tweet pulled up, but Willie Green coming out and saying 20 to 25 minutes for the starters, but then also saying he's going to be risk averse and not going to take chances, and he's going to run the bench way more than the starters. It's again contradicting, right? So what are we doing here? What can we? Okay, here's what I said on Patreon too. If I'm an NBA coach and it's the preseason, just be straightforward and tell people what you're doing. Who cares? The game means nothing. I would literally be like, all right, starters are playing 25 minutes. Bench comes in. We'll get the end of the bench in the fourth quarter. How hard is it to say something like that? We're going to run it like a practice. Give everyone run. Oh, well, no, but now maybe we might get 20 to 25 minutes. Stop it. All right. You know, I gave my praise for Billy Donovan last video, right? One of the few coaches that I trust. Are we serious with this? What am I supposed to do with this? As a creator who's giving out content for DFS preseason, how am I supposed to give advice for this? Gonna play the starters the first half? Oh, he'll check in to see if they want to play the second half. Oh, so yeah, guys, for the Patreon stream tomorrow, maybe. You can check in with me tomorrow. Maybe. I might stream. Like, what on earth is this tweet? So, I had Nikola Vucevic as a core play today. With Julius Randle, Brunson, and Yurt 7. Pivoted from Yurt 7, or pivoted from Barrett to Yurt 7 because I was a bit worried about the Knicks. Every single Knick absolutely smashed. Let's talk about Vooch. Okay? Have him as a core play. I'm thinking about it. I'm like, all right. You know, we got screwed to Sabonis the other night. I can't have people, I can't recommend Vooch with confidence if he's only going to play the first half, right? I can't do that. Make a post and be like, all right, you know what? Let's just pivot to Drummond, right? Drummond's a couple $1,000s cheaper. You can pivot somewhere. You can, upgrade somewhere else. Drummond's a really good point per minute guy. And if the starters don't come back in the second half, then Drummond probably plays more minutes than Vooch, right? That was basically my advice, because we can't play Vooch if he's only going to play the first half, right? You guys happen to see Nikola Vucevic's stats tonight? Oh yeah, never in doubt. He came right back out in the second half. Huge minutes for Nikola Vucevic. Levine, though, he said, nah. He said, screw it, I'm not coming back. But every other starter comes back. So I pivot from Nikola Vucevic to Andre Drummond. Nikola Vucevic, double-double, with like 5 blocks and 5 steals, a 50 bomb. And might I add, too, at extremely low ownership. So I pivot from Vooch to Drummond because of this tweet. And Drummond's going to finish with like 15. Horrible first shift for Andre Drummond, because Nikola Vucevic plays like 22 minutes in the first half. Oh no. We're not even close. Finish. Not even close. Might add. How about the Portland Trailblazers, all right? Are they serious? Are they serious? What is so hard about beat writers asking the coach what's going to happen? So here's the events that took place for Portland. So we get news about a couple hours before the game starts that Justice Winslow is going to be the starter. Like, okay, that's a little bit weird. Do we have the other starters? No, just Winslow. So I'm like, don't really know what's going on here. A few minutes later, we get the Blazers Argentina Twitter account tweet out the starters. I'm like, what is this account? I don't see any other beat writers talking about the starters, but the account was verified. The post on Patreon, all right, this account's verified. Looks like these are the starters. Same starters, minus Josh Hart. Then someone asked, I think Jake Anderson replied and was like, where are you guys getting this information from? Literally, this Blazers Argentina account has like 20,000 followers and is verified. They reply, oh, we're just guessing that these are the other starters. You can't tweet out the starters and then say, oh yeah, this is just a guess. They literally said, these are the starters for tonight against Utah. And nah, it's just a guess, actually. So I have to backtrack on Patreon. I'm like, okay, these are not the starters. We still don't know. I'm looking at the Vegas odds. The Vegas odds had moved greatly in favor of the Jazz. I'm like, okay, I think the starters are not going to play. 45 minutes until the game starts. Nothing. 30 minutes? 15 minutes? You're out of your mind. No chance we're getting news. 10 minutes? No. 5 minutes? Absolutely not. 5 minutes before lock? We have no idea who's playing. 2 minutes before lock, we get news. Same starters. Throat's a little sore from this tilt. Give me a second. All right. Let's compose myself. And again, it's not even close. Not even close to finished here. All right. Blazers Argentina account. Okay. Here's a nice one for you. I play a low-owned Najee Marshall. Starting, it's like 4.7K. Play him at low ownership. Starts the game off, hits a 3, couple assists, and a block. I'm like, yes, this is great. This is phenomenal. Najee Marshall? No way. 3 fouls in 5 minutes, random massive foul trouble. Comes back in the second quarter after a prolonged shift on the bench. 4th foul right away in 8 minutes. You would think you would not have to deal with foul trouble in the preseason. Me? Oh yeah, you better believe I'm getting foul trouble at low ownership too. Very important, at low ownership for Najee Marshall. Massive foul trouble, loses huge minutes because of random foul trouble. And this is really, really the cherry on top. I mean, when I saw this, I mean it when I say I don't think I've ever been as mad as I am tonight. So I'm sure the other video you guys saw, I played a low-owned Kelly Olynyk the other night, right? Very low-owned. Played him on that 2-game slate. So what does he do for me? You want to know what he did for me? 0 of 7 shooting and a massive bust in like 25 minutes. So I'm thinking, okay, just can't with Kelly O, right? And it's just so incredibly unlucky, that game that he had for me at low ownership. I can't deal with it. So you want to know his stats? First half night. The first half. He won for like 8 fantasy points when I played him at low ownership the other day. 0 of 7 shooting. Stats at half. 10 points, 6 assists, 3 boards, and 2 blocks. A 30 bomb at half. Draining threes. Absolutely stroking 3-pointers. All right, so welcome, guys. My name is DK. Let's talk about this 5-game NBA slate here. If you guys are new, I do cover content for Draftkings and PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the sponsor of the video. Make sure to use the code DKDFS for a 100% match up to $100. Over on PrizePicks, I do have a package. We are now 11 of 12 in the preseason. 11 of 12, another win tonight. So if you guys are interested in that, you can check out my Patreon link down below. Also offer DFS content. All right, so Pacers and Hornets, first game. So for the Indiana Pacers, news-wise, we know Rick Carlisle said that with the short preseason, he said he's going to play his guys and play to win. So I think they get decent run looking at their minutes from last game, first preseason game last year. Didn't get a lot of run. Starters played like high teens minutes. I would think those go up a bit. So I think we probably get low to mid-20s minutes for these Pacer starters. So taking a look at players and the prices, we have Halliburton 7K, Miles Turner at 6'4", Buddy Hield at 6'1". I mean, this is going to be like their big three. I think all three look pretty good here. You know, Charlotte's defense is awful, and I'm expecting like mid-20s minutes for all these guys. So I like all three. I think Halliburton probably your safest bet. Hield probably the guy with the lowest floor, but if he hits the shots, he has a pretty high ceiling. So I do like all three of the main guys here for the Pacers. Duarte, whether he starts or comes to the bench, still should get solid run. I think he's a fair option there in the mid-range. McConnell's fine. Benedict Mathurin, we'll keep an eye on that, whether or not he's going to play. If he does play, he's obviously a viable option. Jalen Smith sounds like he is good. He's close to 100% healthy. Assuming that he plays, I think he is a good option. Again, a guy that can kind of stretch the floor, block some shots. Looks like Tice and Goga probably aren't going to play. If like Jalen Smith doesn't play too, then we are going to have some, value with some of these backup bigs. Maybe like Isaiah Jackson, I think would be a solid option there. So we'll keep an eye on some news here for the Pacers. But let's move on to the Charlotte Hornets. So the Hornets starters played like mid-20s minutes last game. We do have no Gordon Hayward and no Cody Martin. Again, Steve Clifford said they're just being cautious. So the two guards are where I have the most interest in LaMelo and Rozier. And then Kelly Oubre. These are the guys going to be leading the way offensively. They're going to be playing alongside low-usage players like Washington and Plumlee. So I think the two guards and Kelly Oubre look good. Oubre is the cheapest, also shooting guard, small forward eligibility. So he's probably the easiest to get to. But the ceiling is definitely high in these two guards. Again, they're going to run the offense right. No Gordon Hayward, obviously no Miles Bridges. So the two guards plus Oubre I think will look very good. Value-wise, not a ton. I will mention Nick Richards got the backup 5 run over Mark Williams. He played about 18 minutes, so I think Nick Richards is a viable value play. All right, Cleveland and Philadelphia. So for Cleveland, we know that Evan Mobley's out. Ricky Rubio is going to be out until about December. I haven't seen any news from the Cavs yet. Looking at the first preseason game last year, we saw like low 20s minutes for a lot of the starters. So at the moment, that's kind of what I'm expecting. First game here for Donovan Mitchell. It's going to be interesting to see how him and Darius Garland kind of gel, but I think both the main Cavs guards are definitely viable. With Evan Mobley out, it definitely is a boost to a guy like Jarrett Allen. We'll see what they do with the starting lineup. They could shift Kevin Love into the starting lineup if Kevin Love starts. Like we know Love's a good point per minute guy. I would definitely have some interest there. LeVert, not so much there at 6.3. Let's see. Value-wise, not a ton. I mean, I expect Isaiah Mobley to get some run here, but it kind of depends on how much the starters get. So mainly looking to the main guys here for the Cavs. Not a ton of value that I like. On the Philadelphia side, so they rested their veterans in Embiid, Harden, and Tucker last game. I would expect those guys to play in this game. In the 76ers' second preseason game last year, starters, got about low 20s minutes, 24 for Tobias, 20 for Embiid, 22 for Curry, 25 for Milton. So I do expect these main guys to play. I don't think they're going to play huge minutes, but obviously you can go to Embiid and Harden. These guys are going to be very productive when they're on the court. But yeah, assuming those guys play, I'm not as excited about anyone else in this team. Like Tobias would be a bit overpriced. Still would have a little bit of interest in Maxey, who was great in limited action last game. The backup 5, so Paul Reed started the game. If he's going to get the backup 5 run, I do think he's a pretty decent value play. We know, a guy that can stuff the stat sheet, great rebounder, great shot blocker. They also do have Montrezl Harrell. I guess they could go back to Harrell as the backup 5. We'll see. But if Paul Reed is, in fact, going to be the backup 5 for this game, he's probably the value play that I would go to there. All right, Toronto and Boston. So Toronto, they limited the minutes in their first preseason game. Last game, keeping starters around about 15 or so minutes. In the second preseason game last year for the Raptors, though, they did give their starters a good run. You saw 30 for OG, 26 for Scotty Barnes, 29 for Van Fleet. So I do expect these minutes to go up. I'd be pretty surprised if the starters only play the first half again. So with that being said, I think the main guys here for Toronto, the starting 5, and Siakam, Van Fleet, Barnes, OG, and Garrett Trent all look pretty good. Expect Scotty Barnes to probably play the most of these starters, but Van Fleet, Siakam probably will be the most productive. And if we're going to get 25 plus minutes, I'm pretty high on these Raptors. So again, we'll keep an eye on news, but at the moment, I do like Toronto a good amount, assuming that we get mid to high 20s minutes for these guys. OG and Trent are fine. I mean, you guys know the story of Gary Trent for me last year. Whenever I would play him, 0 of 17 shooting. Whenever I would fade, he would break the 3-point record and just couldn't miss. So just do the opposite of what I do with Gary Trent always. Now, a couple of guys I'll mention off the bench, Boucher and Achua. These guys will be productive when they're in the court. Small lean to Boucher, does have power forward eligibility. If we get, around 20 minutes or so from him, I think he's a pretty good value. Don't really know if I consider anyone else. Again, I'm expecting the starters to play a good chunk more. So value-wise, not much else below Boucher and Achua. All right, so for Boston, starters got some decent run last game, mid-20s for some of these main guys. We know the offense can run through Tatum and Brown. If we get similar run to last game, they both look pretty good. Brogdon came off the bench and looked very good stats-wise. I think he finished with a double-double. So he's definitely someone I'm considering. Horford was the guy that played the least of the starters. Again, he's getting up there in age, so a little bit concerned about his minutes, but he will be playing at the 5, which is a pretty big boost, right, to him playing the 4. Like his upside goes way up when he does play the 5. Marcus Smart, I'm kind of just indifferent on. Now, they did just sign Blake Griffin. We'll see if he's going to be available for this game. He is complete dust, but he is only 4.7K. Last game, they actually played Noah Vonleh as the backup 5, so if Blake Griffin's not going to play, I do think we can consider a guy like Noah Vonleh. Also, Sam Hauser got some decent run off the bench. Those two, plus Pritchard. Pritchard probably being my favorite guy to consider off the bench, just because he'll be very productive when he's on the court. All right, Dallas and OKC. So for Dallas, let's see. Where is this? I have so many tabs. Sorry about that, guys. Where is this? Okay, so we know McGee and Bertans are out, and that Luka is most likely not playing. So yeah, Luka Doncic very likely not playing tomorrow. Tim Hardaway said smiling when I asked about him. I don't know. We'll see. So sounds like Luka Doncic is not going to play. We don't have any idea of starters' minutes yet, but I would assume they're going to be relatively limited. And if you take a look at their first preseason game last year, we saw starters play like mid-teens minutes, which is not great. So assuming Luka's out, if we get like 15 or so minutes from these main guys, I don't have a ton of interest. So like Wood, Dinwiddie, Hardaway, DFS, Kleba, basically all the rotation guys, Bullock. If these guys are only going to play like 15 or so minutes, not a ton of interest. If they limit those guys, though, there's a couple rookies I'll mention. Jaden Hardy was pretty solid in the Summer League. He's a high usage player. He's only 4.1K. Would have some interest there, as well as a guy like Marcus Bingham, rookie, good shot blocker. So those two I have my eye on if we know that the main Mavericks are going to be limited. Now, if we get news that Luka is confirmed not playing and that the starters are going to play into the second half, then that changes things, right? Because then I'm going to have interest in Dinwiddie, who's probably going to run the offense and look pretty good. Tim Hardaway would probably get a lot of shots up. Christian Wood, they said he's actually going to come off the bench, but McGee's out, so I would assume he would probably start. So like Wood, Dinwiddie, Hardaway would all look pretty good if we know that they are going to play into the second half. All right, the Oklahoma City Thunder. So starters did play in the second half. Giddey was a guy I really liked last slate, and of course I late pivoted off him. It's just like, it's comical, right? It's comical what happens to me when I make a pivot, right? Pivot off Giddey last slate, 50 bomb. Pivot off Vooch because of that quote from Billy Donovan, 50 bomb. Just whenever I make a pivot, it's never going to go well, ever. But yeah, so Josh Giddey is someone I really like at this price point, and it's the same reason I liked him last slate. Look at this roster, right? Giddey is going to have to do like everything for this team. So Giddey almost had a triple-double last game, or maybe he did. What was his final stat line? 14, 12, and 9. So yeah, almost a triple-double. I think he looks amazing in the mid-range. I also like Trey Mann a good amount. He was getting a lot of shot attempts up, played 23 minutes. The only downside of Trey Mann is he's pretty scoring dependent. So if his shot's not falling, he does have a low floor. Baisley actually came off the bench, but did play relatively well. I think he's fine. Pokashevsky and Kenneth Williams both started. They're both fair options in the mid-range. Be careful with this. I know a lot of people will probably make this mistake throughout the year, but there's 2 Jalen Williamses on the Thunder. I know, I'm not kidding. There's 2 Jalen Williamses. But this Jalen Williams, the guard, Jalen Williams, played the most of anyone, played 26 minutes. And he's a guy that is going to shoot when he's on the court. So I do have some interest in him as a value option. Also, JRE started at the 5. He's only 4.8K, pretty solid value. So actually a good amount to like here for the Thunder. A lot of guys pretty cheap. If we get a similar rotation to last game, definitely some guys that are underpriced. And finally, the Phoenix Suns and the LA Lakers. Can we talk about how the Suns lost to the 36ers? No, not the 76ers. The 36ers, an Australian team. The Suns lost, and they played like all their starters. I mean, what? The starters got like low 20s minutes. Now, Monty Williams said that he's going to ramp up the starters' minutes a tad. So with them playing low 20s minutes last game, I think a fair guess for their minutes is like mid to high 20s. So I think like 25 to 27 minutes, I think is a pretty fair guess for these Sun starters, which does make them look like pretty good options. So we have Booker, Paul, Ayton, the big 3 here. I think Booker probably being my preferred option of the bunch, just the guy with the highest ceiling. But we know Paul has a pretty high floor, and if he's going to play the same minutes, he's the guy that obviously has a ceiling. And DeAndre Ayton also solid as well. So the big 3 for Phoenix look pretty good. Lakers, not great defensively, so I'm not super worried about that. Mikal Bridges, not as excited about him. I mean, he's mainly out there for defense. He can knock down some threes. Cam Johnson did start and did play well. I think he finished with, maybe they don't have his stats up, but I think he had a pretty good game against the 36ers. Again, he is now the starting 3 for Jay Crowder. So I do have a little bit of interest in a guy like Cam Johnson. And then off the bench, not a ton. I mean, Campaign, we know will be relatively high usage. Probably it. So let's finish off with the Lakers, who right now I haven't seen anything on minutes-wise for the main guys. Now, last game, we got the starters only playing the first half. You would think those minutes are going to go up because I believe the Lakers only have 4 preseason games, and Darvin Ham said that they need to get chemistry. So I would think that these Lakers main starters are going to play into the second half. Of the big 3, I think AD probably my favorite. He was my favorite last game. He had a massive game in only one half. LeBron shot like 0 of 7. I don't expect that to happen again. So I do think LeBron will be lower owned than AD, but I still prefer AD. Westbrook, definitely going to be the lowest owned of the bunch. He is my least favorite for sure. Value-wise, the Lakers, so you kind of saw Damian Jones and Thomas Bryant split the center minutes. They're both fine plays, not super high usage, but guys that can get rebounds and putbacks. You did see Kendrick Nunn start. He's only $4,000. I think he's a decent value play. Again, won't be high usage playing with these starters, but if we're going to get 20-plus minutes from him, I do think he is a decent value play. You saw some rotation minutes for JTA. He's fine. Beverly will get rotation minutes, but he's a bit pricey. So I think that is going to wrap it up for the video, guys. So that might have been my longest tilt on record. So thank you for everyone that ended up watching. Very surprised that if a lot of you guys ended up watching that whole thing. But no, seriously, I appreciate all the support, guys, on the DFS content, PrizePicks content. Really do appreciate it. Again, if you do enjoy this, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And I will see you all in the next video. Hopefully, we don't have to tilt about anything. I hope. Please.